Once again, I greet you. This is Hibernate, and this is the third project of how to configure and create a Hibernate project using Java. You have already seen how to configure Hibernate. You have also seen the requirements of what it takes to configure a Hibernate project. And now we're going to dive deep into how to create a DAO class where you can be able to save, update, and delete. So here what we did, we are in the DAO class, and I assume that we all know the use of these packages. So we are in stock DAO class. From the controller package, we have the model package which has the stock class, and we also have seen the way we have added this Hibernate configuration, this Hibernate util class in the util package, and we also of course have a graphical user interface or a GFrame form in the view package. So before we go with these methods of saving, updating, deleting, and retrieving data from the database, we shall first start with adding annotations to our model classes so that these classes could be or can be mapped to the database. So as you have seen, and we have become a little bit familiar with annotations, the first annotation and the most important one is the annotation called entity. And this annotation helps us to precise that what we want that this class will be mapped to the database. So we choose this entity javax.persistence. So if you want, you could import this class by writing all this, and then by reaching here you add a star. So whatever you will be needing to use from that Java persistence library, you will be using it automatically. So the reason why there is a red notice here, it is because every entity or database table should have a primary key. Therefore, I will need to precise a primary key in this project. So here we will ask ourselves, what is the primary key for this project? Since we don't have something like an ID or something like that, we can choose something that could be unique. And in our case, the name of the product, according to what you have seen in this project, we have been precising names of the products like mango 123, mango 28, meat 111. So these namings, I decided to use them because this project didn't have something like IDs and things like that. But normally you all know that a primary key is something that should be unique. In my case, I'll be making names unique. So to add a primary key, you use the annotation called add ID. So as we added this annotation, you have seen that the red notice have disappeared. So since we only have one class, there's no need to make to add more mapping annotations, but we can also play around by changing the name that the table will be having in the database, but I don't think that is really important by now. The most important thing you should know when dealing with Hibernate using mapping, you should come here in this model package in the class that you have. You precise that this class is an entity, and you also choose the one that you'll be using as a primary key, and before that variable you'll be adding the annotation at ID. So having done that, we are now coming here and we are going to create a method to save data. The method was already created, and I assume we all know how to create the method. Then the next thing will be, how do we do it? The first thing you do is create a session. So I'm going to first declare the variable session so that I'll be able to use it throughout the whole project without having to import it every time I want to use it. The session is from a library called org.hibernate.session. This library, you know where libraries are found. It is here from this library folder. So if you didn't import this Hibernate 4.3x library, so you will not be able to find this session. So that is why it is one of the most important things you need to do when you start to configure your project. You make sure the Hibernate library is imported. So having the session, you can also use, we'll also use what you call the transaction, Hibernate transaction, and we also import it from the Hibernate class. Call it transaction. And now we can start with the saving method. So the way Hibernate is amazing is that the following things I'm going to write here are what we create or what makes the saving method in Hibernate. I think I would even dare saying that they are like a routine or a line of codes which do not change, and you'll see it. Get session factory dot open session, and then I come here, I say the transaction dot or equals to session dot begin transaction, and then I say session. Do you know that sessions are the ones which do the activities of saving? So we tell the session to save our object in the database. This is it. So this is how we tell Hibernate to save something in the database. Then Hibernate will know what to do. That's the way Hibernate is fun. Session.commit. Now we use transaction.commit, and then finally we'll close the session, because you know that whenever we do something from the database, after we were saved, we have to leave. And then we'll return our object. So let me make sure that this is necessary. Yeah, we should return something for sure. So this is it, I guess. Let me find where there is the error. Okay, I guess it is not necessary to return something. So as you have seen here, from this save method, what you have done here is what is done in the update and the delete method. So I don't need to rewrite it again. I will have to copy this code, paste it here, and again paste it here. And what I do here, what I'll change is only write the keyword update on the under the update method, and here I add the keyword delete in the delete method. Then this is all. So this is how I would say like Hibernate becomes fun when it comes to creating sessions. So what you need to do is open a session, then begin the transaction, then you tell the session what to do. You tell it if it has to save, it saves the object, and this object is the one we have in the model, and you have mapped this object to the database, so the object will be saved. Hibernate knows how it will do it. All you need to do is to tell it what to do. The same thing happens to the update and to delete. So the tough thing comes when it comes to retrieving data from the database. Retrieving data from the database, it will require a little bit of some tough things, but it will also start the same. You will first need to create a section and begin the transaction. So I will copy the code again, I paste it, and then after that, what I will do is, so here, because we are using, we want to return something. This method will retrieve data from the database, This is why I called it stock list. To create a list of data from the database, and we will call that list a stock list. So it will return that data, so that if we need to reuse that data, it will return it. So it will return us a list. Therefore, we need to also have a return value. So this is why I also added return, but here this null value will change after I have declared the name of my list, because we return a list. So the next thing we do is we first create a query. This query will save data for us. I will also have to import this query. It's a Hibernate query, like call it query like this, and then it's equal to session. Again, the session will create the query for us, and after creating the query, we will write the SQL query here, and then it's all. So another thing that you see, which is a little bit different from MySQL here, this is how you write the SQL query. You simply write from, and then you add the name of the database table, and it's all. So another thing you need to note here, it is I have created, or I've planned to show you two different queries, or two different ways of selecting data from the database. The first one we use a query, and another one we use what we call criterias. So using this first way, the next thing is after creating a query, and the query has now the query has data that you have selected from the database table. What we need to do is take a list, and we give that list the data that we have from the database. So that list will be containing the object, and we know that our object is stock. So data is put back in the stock object, and then finally it is added to we're going to create the variable name for our list, and you can call that list well, let's call it stock data. That list will be containing stock data, and then we take the data from the query, then we add it to the list, and this is all. So I'll say these are steps. So what we need is to like either memorize how the steps are done, or understand how they are done. So it all needs practice to be able to understand that, I guess. So the next steps here, it is to commit, and then we close the session. That's all. So the new things that you have seen from this method is that first of all we have to create a query, and after creating a query, data that we have retrieved from the database, which is put in this query, is going to be added to the list, and then we are going to return this list, so that if you need to use data from that list, will be actually taking data from this list. So this is it. This is the new thing that was added to this method, but the rest, like it's almost the same. The steps are like 5 steps that you need to do to be able to save, update, or delete something from the database. So the next method is another way of retrieving data from the database. Therefore, everyone will be able to use their own method if they want to. So the same thing here is these two lines are the same, and these two last lines are the same. So what we need to do is to change the way we retrieve data from the database. We're going to change this way and find another way. So how we're going to do it is like you're going to immediately create a list. And in that list we use write stock. Then we choose the name for our list. We're going to call it stock data 2. Then we write list stock. Then we say session dot create criteria. Then here we write I guess it's the class. Well, let me make sure I am doing it right. So for me, if I have a problem, I always have a backup. I'll need to cross check. Yeah, I have once done it well. So I will use, yep, what I need to do here is add stock, then get class. So I'm going to get everything from the class, and then dot list. We cast all that data to be in the form of a list. So this is it. This is how amazing Hibernate is. So this new method we have used, you see it's a little bit even shorter than the one that you have been using, you know. Like this one had 2 lines. It has 2 lines to be able to like save data, to retrieve data from the database. We had to use a query, then we take data from the query and we put it in a list. But this one does it all at the same time. So it's all up to you to understand how to do it and to find the reason why you should use this query instead of instead of using criterias, or the reason why you should use criterias instead of using the queries. So all those methods here, or these techniques that you see here, have benefits and disadvantages. So it's all up to you to know if I want to select only a row in the database, how would I do it? If I want to select a row in the database, how would I do it using this query system or using criterias? That's it again. So I think this is all for this tutorial, and the next time we're going to be discussing on how now we can be able to use the buttons from the graphical user interfaces in the GUI to save data. And here we know we already have the methods that will be doing the tasks for us. So the next thing is to be able to retrieve data imported by from using the graphical user interface. Then our DAO classes are going to handle the remaining of the tasks for us. Thank you.